All right, so as we speak, the House of Representatives is now pouring through 49 brand new additional pages of newly uncovered text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Now, you might remember these messages were a part of the 6 months of missing texts that somehow, well, were lost because of an alleged technical issue with the FBI-issued Samsung phones. Fox News can right now confirm that many of these unearthed texts contain incomplete information, and some are totally incomprehensible. Sarah Carter joins us in a few minutes with the brand new information. And of course, we know in previous texts, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, constantly trashing President Trump, calling him an idiot, a menace, a lonesome human being, and even said F Trump. And prior to Election Day in 2016, Peter Strzok also mentioned some kind of insurance policy that was proposed to Andrew McCabe if Trump should assume office. Now, quote, I want to believe the path that you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. What did that mean? Also remember the letter from then-Senator Harry Reid urging Jim Comey to open up a Trump-Russia collusion investigation into President Trump. After that letter became public, Peter Strzok, well, he texted Lisa Page a link to a New York Times article referencing the letter, writing, quote, here we go. Now, we're literally they were actively rooting for the president's demise. Or what is the insurance policy? What is the insurance plan? Was it to drag the president through the mud? Either way, it's not a good look for two people that were tapped by Robert Mueller for key roles in this special counsel investigation witch hunt. And even worse, this does critical damage to the reputation of our system of justice. Every one of us, every American needs to be concerned. All right, also breaking tonight, James Comey was grilled by Bret Baier right here on the Fox News channel. He's now claiming that the Clinton bought and paid for, unverified, uncorroborated dossier that made up the bulk of the Pfizer application. He's saying did not make up the bulk of the Pfizer information against the Trump campaign associate, even though we have two congressional memos that contradict what James Comey said just a few minutes ago, well, a few hours ago. Take a look.
You called the dossier unverified, salacious. Why did you use that to the FISA court to ask for surveillance for Carter Page? Not only use it, but you led with it. A bulk of that FISA application deals with that dossier. Why?
Yeah, that's not my recollection, Brett. And I don't know that the FISA application has been released. My recollection was it was part of a broader mosaic of facts that were laid before the FISA judge to obtain a FISA warrant.
There was a lot more than the dossier in the FISA application?
My recollection was there was a significant amount of additional material about Page and why there was probable cause to believe he was an agent of a foreign power. And the dossier was part of that, but was not all of it or a critical part of it, to my recollection.
I'm having a really hard time believing that. And this is almost unbelievable. Jim Comey still claiming not to know who paid for Hillary's dirty dossier with Russian lies and propaganda that was put together by a foreign national, including Russian government lies. Look at this.
When did you learn that the DNC and Hillary Clinton campaign had funded Christopher Steele's work?
Yeah, I still don't know that for a fact.
What do you mean?
I've only seen it in the media. I never knew exactly which Democrats had funded. I knew it was funded first by Republicans, opposed to Donald. But that's not true. I'm sorry?
That's not true. That the dossier that Christopher Steele worked on was funded by Republicans?
My understanding was his work started funded by Oppo Research, funded by Republicans.
So Free Beacon and said that they had Glenn Simpson and Fusion GPS on a kind of a retainer, but they did not fund the Christopher Steele memo or the dossier. That was initiated by Democrats.
Okay, my understanding was the activity was begun, that Steele was hired to look into, was first funded by Republicans, then picked up, the important thing was picked up by Democrats opposed to Donald Trump.
This is mind-blowing. They never verified it. He didn't know who funded it? Really? And Christopher Steele was not brought in until Hillary took over the Fusion GPS deep dive into Donald Trump. Now, earlier today, the president called in to Fox and Friends and sounded off, rightly so, on Jim Comey. Listen to the president.
Comey is a leaker and he's a liar. And not only on this stuff, he's been leaking for years. He's probably been using his friend, the so-called professor, who now turns out to have FBI clearance, which he never said. He even lied about that because he never said that in Congress. He said he gave it to a friend. And he gave it to a friend to leak classified information. It's all classified. It was totally classified. So he did an illegal act. And he said it himself, in order to get a special counsel against me. So the special counsel, and by the way, and Intelligence Committee and everybody else has found no collusion. Nobody unclassified them. And those memos were about me, and they're phony memos. He didn't write those memos accurately. He put a lot of phony stuff.
President's correct. And the president also slamming the Department of Justice and Mueller's partisan witch hunt. Let's take a look at this.
I answer this all the time. Because of the fact that they have this witch hunt going on with people in the Justice Department that shouldn't be there, they have a witch hunt against the President of the United States going on. I've taken the position, and I don't have to take this position, and maybe I'll change, that I will not be involved with the Justice Department. I will wait till this is over. It's a total... it's all lies, and it's a horrible thing that's going on. So I'm very disappointed in my Justice Department. But because of the fact that it's going on, and I think you'll understand this, I have decided that I won't be involved. I may change my mind at some point because what's going on is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And by the way, the only collusion is the collusion with the Democrats and the Russians. You take a look at what's going on there. They wouldn't even give their server, the DNC, Democratic National Committee, wouldn't even give its server to the FBI. So what kind of an FBI? They break down doors for Paul Manafort early in the morning. His wife is in bed, like at 5 or 6 in the morning, and they undo the lock for Michael Cohen early in the morning. And yet they walk into the DNC and they won't give them the server. They say, we're not giving you the server. Oh, okay, we'll leave. That's not the FBI. That's a fix.
Why didn't they demand those DNC servers? A phenomenal point. Double standard. President Trump is right. Now, earlier today, the National Review's Victor Davis Hanson, an incredible column breaking down the shocking double standard in very clear terms. Mueller was all too happy to target former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, 35 years of service to his country, for lying to the FBI. The FBI agents interviewing him didn't think so. Andrew McCabe, he remains uncharged, even after the Inspector General reported multiple lies to federal investigators under oath. And James Comey also remains free and clear when he lied to Congress about not writing Hillary Clinton's exoneration letter before investigating and interviewing Clinton. And then Peter Strzok interviewed Clinton. What about James Clapper? We know he lied under oath about data collection on Americans, and John Brennan, who lied under oath about the dirty dossier. And then, of course, no charges, as the president was just saying, for Cheryl Mills, who misled investigators about Hillary Clinton's private server, or Huma Abedin, who also tried to conceal Hillary's illicit server. Then there's the obstruction of justice charges that Mueller is all too happy to investigate as long as it's Donald Trump or somebody related to Trump, but not James Comey, who clearly misled a FISA judge about the Clinton bought and paid for foreign dossier put together by Christopher Steele in order to obtain a warrant against a Trump campaign associate, an opposition party, before the election? Seriously? Is this the United States or are we Venezuela? Now, the Clinton campaign, they paid this former spy, a foreign national, to write the dossier using Russia propaganda and lies. Nobody verified it or corroborated it, and they still presented it to a FISA judge, and they omitted who paid for it. Not Clinton associate Cheryl Mills. She claimed attorney-client privilege in order to get out of testifying during the server investigation. And now the newest addition of President Trump's legal team, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. He is weighing in on the ongoing Mueller witch hunt, telling a local news station, quote, I can guarantee you this, when Mueller's finished, no matter whatever he does, he's not going to have a stitch of evidence that, meaning he, President Trump, colluded with the Russians. Now that's a disgrace. The case should be over. The mayor's right. Now even the Attorney General, finally, Jeff Sessions, is calling for the Mueller probe to come to an end. For the sake of this country, this needs to come to an end. Watch this.
I think the American people are concerned, and the president is concerned. He's dealing with France and North Korea and Syria and taxes and regulations and border and crime every day. And I wish this thing needs to conclude.
It needs to conclude. Yes, sir, Mr. Attorney General. He also claimed that he would not be appointing a second special counsel to investigate deep state crimes because special counsel investigations take on a life of their own. Well, you don't say. Take a look.
We're determined to be disciplined, stay within our classical procedures and rules. I do not think we need to willy-nilly appoint special counsels. As we can see, it can really take on a life of its own.
Let me be clear. These are obvious examples of bias at some of the highest levels of our system of justice in this country. Every American, you should be troubled. I always say, let not your heart be troubled. But this is an obvious two-tiered system of justice. We all deserve and must demand better. And by the way, we'll have more analysis on this deep state corruption later in the show. But first, now, despite pressure from some of his liberal Hollywood friends, Kanye West, good for him, he's not backing down from his, quote, love for President Trump. And Kanye was pictured leaving his studio proudly wearing his Make America Great Again hat. And earlier today, he tweeted, quote, if you feel something, don't let peer pressure manipulate you. I love people that stand up for what they believe in. Anyway, this week, Kanye West, he's been taking a stand for individual thought after supporting black conservative Candace Owens, who came under fire from the left for comments about victim mentality culture. By the way, we'll have more on Kanye's developing friendship with the president later in the program. Candace also is going to be on the show tonight.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Rapper Kanye West has spent 4 days posting pro-Trump content on Twitter. What does that mean for America and humanity and life itself? We'll investigate just ahead. But first, Fox's Bret Baier just conducted a deeply revealing interview with former FBI Director Jim Comey. During that interview, Comey tried to claim that the Steele dossier, the one he hid information about from the president, was not central to the request for a FISA warrant against people affiliated with the Trump campaign. Here's part of it.
You called the dossier unverified, salacious. Why did you use that to the FISA court to ask for surveillance for Carter Page? Not only use it, but you led with it. A bulk of that FISA application deals with that dossier. Why?
Yeah, that's not my recollection, Brett. And I don't know that the FISA application has been released. My recollection was it was part of a broader mosaic of facts that were laid before the FISA judge to obtain a FISA warrant.
There was a lot more than the dossier in the FISA application?
My recollection was there was a significant amount of additional material about Page and why there was probable cause to believe he was an agent of a foreign power. And the dossier was part of that, but was not all of it or a critical part of it, to my recollection.
I don't know that it's been released. Hiding behind government secrecy once again. Congressman Trey Gowdy represents South Carolina. He chairs the Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives, and he joins us tonight. Mr. Chairman, thanks for coming on. What did you watched the interview. What did you learn from it?
Couple of things. Number one, the Page and Strzok he would have fired immediately, which means the two agents that were leading both the Clinton and Trump investigations should have been canned. Director Comey's recollection is flawed. If he does not remember telling Congress that his agents told him they didn't think Flynn was lying, then he needs to get his lawyers to go back and look at the transcript. We did not mishear. Maybe he misspoke, but that's in the transcript. And the double standard that he's had for the last couple of weeks still exists. You know, Clinton can lie and she ought to be president. McCabe can lie and he's still a stand-up guy. But Trump, boy, if he tells any lies at all, then impeachment is too good of a remedy for him.
And that dangerous Martha Stewart, who went to prison for lying, and he brags about that in his book, right? He doesn't remember a lot. He doesn't remember when he first heard about the Steele dossier. He doesn't remember who told him about the Steele dossier. Is that plausible?
No, because he knew that Republicans paid for it, even though that's inaccurate. So if he learned about it in the fall of 2016, then it was already known that the Democrats had picked up on that work. So whoever briefed him, why would you just say the Republicans started it, but not also include the Democrats finished it? So that and the part about it not being part of the FISA application, not a significant part, then Tucker, why did you use it at all? And I've actually read the application, and he's just wrong. It was an indispensable part of the application, period.
So how can he claim otherwise? I mean, his first reaction was, I don't think that's been made public. In other words, you can't prove me wrong because you and the rest of the civilians asking these questions, the American citizens here, don't have access to the relevant information. But as you just pointed out, you do. You've seen it. That's not true. This forms a central part of the request, correct?
Well, there are three parts of it. This is one of the parts. They led with it. And if my recollection is correct, it occupied a disproportionately large part of that application. So I go back and ask all those who say it wasn't important, then why did you use it? If you didn't need it, why did you use it and why did you lead with it?
So let's strip away the politics and take Trump out of this so we can see clearly. At the core is the allegation that Carter Page, the hapless Carter Page, was acting, as the former director said tonight, as an agent of a foreign power. Is that a plausible claim? Do you think any reasonable person looking at the available evidence could reach a conclusion that Carter Page is a Russian agent?
It'd be tough. I think most people that have any experience with Carter Page, which would include the FBI, because they've interviewed him on a number of occasions, would you be more likely to call him a clown than a spy?
So what do you make of that?
And I don't say that to be disparaging towards him. I mean, I spent a lot of time with him in a congressional committee room.
Right.
If anyone needed his Fifth Amendment right to counsel, if anyone needed a lawyer while he was talking to Congress, it would have been Carter Page. I just don't. I mean, he's not James Bond. He's not Jason Bourne. It's sad, actually.
So if our top law enforcement official can say with a straight face on live television that Carter Page is a foreign spy and represents a threat to American national security, he's lying, it sounds like.
Well, I don't quarrel with the FBI wanting to run out a lead. I mean, I'm probably biased. I am biased towards law enforcement. Go ahead and run out the lead. The challenge then becomes when you are going to spy on an American citizen, it needs to be more than a lead. You need to have probable cause and make all proper representations to the court. The other thing I will tell you, Tucker, that I learned tonight is Jim Comey has a definition of the word leak that no one else has. Yeah. What he says is a leak is what the rest of us call a felony. Leaking is disclosing a confidential conversation, which is exactly what he did.
He came off as much oilier in this interview.
All right, joining us now with reaction, civil rights attorney Darryl Parks and Turning Point USA Communications Director Candace Owens is in studio. So great to have you.
I'm so glad.
You actually are part of this story. Kanye first defended you.
That is absolutely right. Apparently, it was my brain that launched this ideological civil war in the Black community, and I am so excited about it. This is a tremendous time to be alive as a Black American. We've been existing under this facade, these lies the Democrats have orchestrated, because they consider us a low information voter market, you know, and they think we're not going to research the stats and we'll never find out.
I hate the race card. It's played every election year.
Absolutely.
Every single election year. It drives me nuts. You know, 14 states, Darryl, now have record low unemployment, record low. Black Americans, record low. Hispanic Americans, record low. Women in America, record low. Unemployment records. That is since Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. Is that good for America? Obama had 8 years, 13 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more Americans in poverty. That was his legacy. Who's doing a better job? Who's doing a better job?
Well, Sean, first of all, I don't know how President Trump could take responsibility for that progress. That still doesn't deal with the real issue. The real issue is that Black Americans are still having great difficulty, and the unemployment for Black Americans is twice that of whites.
Until every forgotten man and woman has a job and a trajectory to the life they want in this great free country. You're not answering my questions. Look at these numbers.
But
now
we
I have
agree
you.
in some ways.
How did Obama fail with 13 million more Americans on food stamps? Did he fail? Did he fail with 8 million more in poverty 8 years later?
No, he did not fail at all. He did not fail at all. I think what he did was he made Black America a focus. What I want to see, though, is President Trump to show us that Black America is a priority for him and to have specifics as to how he plans to do that. There are issues of mental health,
he's skating
education,
around the issue,
healthcare.
and it's okay. I actually like when they do this, have these delusional responses. Just admit that the blacks are doing better under the Trump presidency. That's totally fine, but it's this refusal to admit it, and blacks are going to start doing the research, and they're going to start seeing what's going on.
I have been frustrated. Al Gore, Republicans don't even want to count you in the census, or, you know, the change in tone and cadence before predominantly Black American audiences, I always felt was insulting. But the policies, you know, look at what Kanye said, 4,000 American souls slaughtered in Chicago. We once scrolled the names. We heard about Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. We heard about Freddie Gray, Baltimore. We heard about Ferguson. I scrolled the names. We never heard of these 4,000 people shot and killed.
Well, listen, that's because Chicago is run by Democrats, and they never want to hold up a mirror to what they're doing, so that's why we never heard those names. 4,000, that's exactly right. That's the exact same number, about the same number of Americans that were slaughtered in the Iraq War. Right? It's a war zone. And Trump offered to send the National Guard, and the Democrats majorly opposed him. So what it comes down to is Trump is trying to be effective there, and we're seeing that we have so many great results in Black America because of him.
What do you say to Daryl?
But Sean, let me say this, though. I think I want to hear from our president to tell us that something about Black America is a priority for him tomorrow. I would love to hear him focus on mental health, education, health care. Those are issues that he can help us with tomorrow.
Yeah, Obamacare worked out great for everybody.
Those issues.
Well, look, it sounds like they're signing up for 8 years of Trump. That's what it really comes down to, because he's doing a great job, the numbers are better, and he needs more time in office to continue to do an amazing job. So it sounds like you're almost aboard the Trump train, which makes me feel happy. We're agreeing on something here.
Well, let me say something. I want to see Trump be successful because this is our country, but I don't think he is focusing on the issues that really affect Black America. I hope he would, though.
So then you must agree that Obama was not focusing whatsoever on the issues that were affecting Black America if you don't think that Trump is right now, because the numbers are in and blacks are doing better under his administration.
I love President Obama, and I don't think we should spend any more time trying to put him down.
I think it's important to show that things are a lot different, and it's important because for so long they have told us that because there was a black president, this meant progress. Progress is not a skin tone. Progress is a number, okay? And for so long we've been convinced, look, he's taking a photo op with Beyonce and Jay-Z. That means absolutely nothing. Chicago got worse while Obama was in office, and he came from there. That's what I mean, you can't dispute the facts here.
Is this a cultural shift? Is this going to have...
We are on the brink of a cultural shift, and I can tell you right now, it is going to be amazing to watch. And I'm so happy that it starts with a single tweet. And I did predict it. I said Kanye West would be the person that broke culture. I said the last time, when I interviewed you earlier in the week, it's going to be fun to watch your trajectory and your rise. You're a superstar. Thank you
and it's
so
an honor
much
to know you and have you. And I still like Daryl, even though we disagree on everything. Daryl, good to see you. But here with reaction to all of these developments out of Washington tonight, we're joined by Florida Congressman, also gubernatorial candidate, who I have said I want to win to be the next governor. And Ron DeSantis is with us, sir. Okay, I know these are just released. We're pouring through the 49 pages. We know the hatred Strzok and Page have for President Trump. What do you got so far?
Well, Sean, I think this is incomplete production. I mean, we know their texting habits of how often they were texting in other periods. And so this is the period December of 2016 during the Trump transition, all the way up until the firing of James Comey and then the appointment of Robert Mueller as a special counsel. Yet there's only 40-some pages there. There's gaps. Some of the stuff is incomplete. So I don't think that this is a full production. I think there's more questions that this raises, and we're going to have to go back to the Justice Department and ask them why they weren't able to recover the full Strzok Page text messages.
Congressman, I had multiple sources telling me tonight that they suspect that there were other devices used as well. Did you get that? Is that your interpretation looking at this?
Yes, and we've also have reason to believe that they were using something called the clean Gmail, which is everyone has access to the account and you just do messages in the draft and then respond to draft, so you're not actually sending emails. So yeah, there's a lot of things that they do using iMessage. So we've got to get all of that we can get for sure, but this is not it. I mean, Sean, you've documented these are lovebirds. They had all this hatred for the president. They were very quick to put their opinions about everything that was going on. And yet here, you'll just see gap after gap. So I'm not satisfied.
Okay, I want to go to the issue. How is it possible Peter Strzok is in the middle of all this? He interviewed General Flynn, apparently didn't think he was lying. How did he get charged then? But also interviewed Hillary Clinton. But that was in July of 2016. It was early May of 2016 where it was Strzok and Comey himself writing an exoneration that actually used the legal standard that means Hillary would have broken the law. They changed the wording to take that part out. And the original drafting also had in that multiple foreign intelligence agencies had hacked into Hillary Clinton's email server, and that means top secret, classified, special access programming information was in fact obtained by America's enemies, and none of it would have been redacted, sir.
So if you were somebody who was on Hillary's campaign team at the time and you could have suggested changes to be made to that statement, you would have suggested exactly the changes that Peter Strzok insisted on to try to reduce Hillary's level of recklessness and her culpability. And so he was involved in the thick of that case. And here's, I think, why it's so troubling with Strzok's conduct. What does he do after Comey exonerates Hillary? A couple weeks later, he opens up a collusion case against the Trump campaign based off what we now know was a 2-page document with no actual intelligence. And then eventually they supplemented it with a fake dossier paid for by the Democrats. But Strzok was the prime driver, not only behind exonerating Hillary, but then pursuing this collusion fairy tale. And that ultimately led to the appointment of Mueller.
Unbelievable. Congressman, we are not going to let up. There are apparently 50,000 of them, and apparently 1.2 million pages that the Inspector General has that Congress needs to get. And I'm just urging Congress, if they don't hand them over soon, you must hold these people in contempt and worse.
Without question.
All right, Congressman, thank you.